2008 recession. Racial inequities and segregation drive disparities across the city, resulting in gaps in employment, earnings, and investment. Some neighborhoods are experiencing an affordability crisis, which is leading to displacement. Others are struggling with vacancy and a lack of investment. We need bold, courageous new leadership to overcome these systemic challenges. We've asked the candidate to share their positions, and they have participated in surveys leading up to this day. Today, we're here to hear about their plans. We want to hear your plans to address inequities that define our city, and how you will create a more equitable Chicago, and how you will fund your plans. I'm going to introduce each candidate briefly. We want you to hold your applause. We know you love everybody. You love these folks. We want you to hold your applause till the end of the program. If you want to express approval or disapproval, you've got those red and green cards to do that. We'd like to ask you to use those. Starting on my far right, Amara Enyia, Bill Daley, Lori Lightfoot, Garry McCarthy, Dorothy Brown, Susana Mendoza, Paul Vallas, Toni Preckwinkle, Willie Wilson, Erie Chico, John Kozlar, Bob Fioretti. I'm going to start with the first question, and we're going to start to my far right with Amara Enyia and go right down the line. But then, like I said, we'll do the next round of questions randomly. Amara Enyia, how do you define equitable investment in neighborhoods, and how will you prioritize it during your administration? Please share your strategies to address housing, education, and economic development.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. This is my kind of room. As the former executive director of Austin Coming Together, current executive director of the Austin Chamber of Commerce, and having worked with many of these organizations, equity is a matter of an imperative for the city that we have not seen for far too long. And it starts at the top. First, equity as a matter of philosophy requires intentional economic investment. That means the same failed trickle-down economic policy that ruled City Hall must be changed. That paradigm requires us to direct investment to the neighborhoods. But what that requires is that we have to believe that all of you in this room know what's in the best interest of your communities. That means that community-based organizations at the front lines of doing the work must be at the decision-making table, from everything regarding how TIF dollars are allocated, toward the projects that are prioritized within city government, and toward the aesthetics and all of the components of those projects, which is why community benefits agreements have to be a part of the conversation of how we change development in City Hall. It is a matter of prioritizing neighborhoods. The same intentionality that went to building up downtown must also be leveraged through the Department of Planning to build up our neighborhoods. But the organizations in this room are at the front line. Having those voices prioritized is what I would make a major part of not only the Department of Planning, but of our development philosophy.
Bill Daley.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all the organizations that are participating, put on this forum, and for the individuals who came out on a snowy day to listen to us and to engage with us. I appreciate it. No question, economic investment and equitable investment obviously is about everyone in our city getting a fair shot. Everyone in the city being able to walk down the street in every neighborhood and be safe. Every school kid who goes to school gets a chance to be educated or be trained for a job of the future. These are not easy issues. This whole issue of equity, people have struggled for forever. We see the success in downtown. We see the success in many neighborhoods of our city that are doing well. The biggest challenge this city has is how to spread that out. No question about it. How to get the private sector to follow capital investments by the city. I look at the Black Chicago Tomorrow and Auburn Gresham that Sam Scott is leading. That is a unique way to lead a change in that neighborhood, with the private sector joining with the public sector, but the private sector with the most money, not the public sector. On economic development, you look at that, the housing issue, we must make sure that whatever affordable housing can be brought to every neighborhood in this city, that it is done with the agreement and the participation and the drive of the community. It shouldn't be done by the alderman or stopped by the alderman alone. It has to be brought up from the bottom up. On schools, I laid out 2 issues this week. We've got to get neighborhood school councils and get off the local school councils to look at the neighborhoods instead of just the local school.
Lori Lightfoot.
Good morning, everyone. It's my great pleasure to be here. And I think where this issue starts is with recognizing that if the neighborhoods don't thrive, the city doesn't thrive. We have to have a fundamental shift in our philosophy in thinking about and recognize the importance of bringing real equity to investment in neighborhoods. Of course it includes schools, but it also includes making sure that we have real economic development, having a pathway to jobs that will pay a living wage. It also means, of course, that we have to deal with the violence that's going on in neighborhoods. No child should have to grow up with fear as their norm. If we don't solve the violence problem, we will not be able to bring real investment. We will not be able to solve the affordable housing crisis. Violence is the overlapping problem that we must address so the neighborhoods thrive. But what I would also say is, look around this room. This is a remarkable gathering of people. One of the most diverse gatherings that we probably will ever have in our city. The power comes from you, and it comes from electing people who recognize that the strength of our city is stakeholders and people of goodwill in every neighborhood who care about their city and who are willing to invest themselves and their time and their effort to make our community much stronger. We get there by choosing different leaders than we have in the past. And we get there by you recognizing the power that you have at the voting booth on February 26th.
Garry McCarthy.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here. As we all know, the first step to solving a problem is first recognizing what it is. And nobody seems to want to talk about the social economic divide that is at the heart of what has happened in Chicago. And it was done intentionally through redlining. From that, all our problems flow. With it, we have inequities as far as TIF funding goes. Just the proper use of TIF funding by state law will infuse economic development into our neighborhoods. We can hold on to the downtown and not let the neighborhoods wither on the vine, as they have done for decades now in this city. The bottom line is the issues of economic development, education, and housing are all intertwined. And my plan includes bringing back community schools, community neighborhood schools, with two-tiered social services right into the schools to treat the family while treating the student at the same time, because what happens outside the school affects what happens inside the school. We need to bring back the trade and vocational schools and teach people how to fish and not give them a fish. And then what we do is we give small businesses and startups tax incentives to go to the neighborhoods to create the environment for those newly trained workforces that we're producing. At the same time, we assume all of these abandoned properties in the city. We use that workforce to rehab those properties and create affordable housing all at the same time. It's a comprehensive plan. It all has to happen together.
Dorothy Brown.
Good morning, everyone. So I define equitability by saying equitable investment by going back to our forefathers who said, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and are endowed with certain unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That means that fair housing for everyone. That means that fair educational system for everyone. That means that equitable economic investment for everyone. So what I want to do for housing, I'm going to actually hire a housing czar that will actually oversee all of the housing programs to ensure that CHA does not have 5,000 vacant units that no one has, or you are saving $440 million that has not been used for the Section 8 voucher program. To make sure that homeless people, we provide housing for the homeless. I want to have homeless people to actually help rehab some of the houses and give them some jobs in that way. And then I also want to ensure that we have first-time home buyer grants, not loans, but grants to help individuals get their loan, to get their homes. Then education, I'm going to overhaul the educational system from the top to the bottom and elect a school board, make sure that every school is at a magnet school level. Parents should not have to go and try to get into a magnet school for their children to get a good education. Every school should be at a magnet school level. And then for economic development, we're going to have economic development throughout the entire city, fair and
Susana Mendoza.
Wow. Well, I'm happy to be here. This is great. I do want to say this is awesome to see this. This level of excitement is something I haven't seen in a long time, and I want to say thank you for everybody coming out on a Saturday and listening to all the candidates. I'm so excited about the possibilities of the city, and when it comes to this issue of equitable investment in neighborhoods, let's just start by acknowledging that our downtown is magnificent, but we need to feel and see that happen in the neighborhoods as well. I was born in a neighborhood, I'm from a neighborhood, I understand neighborhoods, and I am committed to putting neighborhoods first. I believe that in order to begin equitable investment in our neighborhoods, it has to start at the very smallest level, which is our children. That is why, as part of my Future Now plan, I've put forth a 50 new initiative that would create an investment in our community anchor schools. That's what they should be. I don't want to walk away from our schools. I've committed to taking 50 of the most underutilized and under-resourced schools and doubling down, because I believe that Chicago children will always be our greatest investment. We can provide after-school programming, mentorship, keep them in a safe environment, at the same time provide wraparound services for their parents to be able to access opportunities that will allow them to become self-sufficient. I'll work to make job training programs that focus on industries like green manufacturing technologies, because we need to start thinking about the jobs of the future today. I'm also going to make sure that we provide a capitalization of funds that would allow students in Chicago who want to go to college to be able to refinance their college loans in a way that allow them to not drown in debt. There are so many things that we... Okay, I'll leave it there. Just get started.
Paul Vallas.
Well, great. I'm going to try to avoid the rhetoric and get into specifics. How do you get resources to local communities? Number one, opportunity zones. It's 133. We need to take advantage of them because they're the largest economic incentives ever made available by the federal government. We could generate billions of dollars in opportunity zones, which are low-income areas. Number two, TIF diversions. I want to take 1/3 of all the TIF money, invest it in an equity fund, and put $1 billion on the west sides and the south sides in those communities that have long been underserved. It doesn't require legislation. It requires the will and executive action. Number three, I want to do Hire Chicago, Buy Chicago. Chicago controls $20 billion in income. Airports, schools, CHA. When I was at the Chicago Public Schools, I allocated 54% of all my contracts to minority and women-owned and community businesses. And 58% of those who were hired were Black and Latino. What if they did that against a budget of $20 billion? Number four, you want to do affordable housing? Lift the caps over conversions so unimproved property can be converted to garden units. You'll have 150,000 units in 2 to 3 years. And take those 50,000 unoccupied buildings, take them, seize them, turn them over to community-based organizations for local, community-based and community-owned affordable housing. Those are just some of the initiatives, but we need specifics here, not platitudes. As someone who has done $7 billion in school construction in 4 communities, 80% of those schools in the poorest communities, and have done unprecedented MBWB, I know how to get it done.
Toni Preckwinkle.
I want to thank you all for coming out this morning, and a quick shout out to QCDC, an organization from the 4th Ward. Thank you so much. I spent 10 years in the classroom as a high school history teacher, and I'm the grandmother of 3 public school kids. We need good neighborhood schools for all of our children, and right now, zip code is the best predictor of good schools. We need to be sure that the great public schools that are available in some of our neighborhoods are available to all of our children. So I'm in favor of a moratorium on school closings. I'm in favor of a moratorium on charter school expansions. I support a fully elected representative school board, and I'll fight for long-term funding for our neighborhood schools. When I was alderman, we built 1,500 units of housing in my ward. Most of it affordable rental, but some mixed income and market rate. We worked with not-for-profits, for-profits. We worked with the CTA. We used tax credits. We used TIF resources. We used every vehicle available to us. We expanded one shopping center and we built a new shopping center. I know what it takes to revitalize neighborhoods because I've done it. As a member of the City Council, I was a founder of the Progressive Caucus. I sponsored every affordable housing and living wage ordinance that came before the body. And as mayor, I'll increase expenditures for affordable housing, make the operations of the CHA more transparent, and work for long-term funding to address homelessness.
Willie Wilson.
Let me just say this to you, is that, first of all, I'm not going to say anything until you get your vote. Right? That's not going to happen. You take equality, make sure it's in all 77 communities. White, Black, Latino, Asian, and other. There's no need to create nothing else. Just give the tax dollars to the people what they already have paid within this city of Chicago. Equality for all communities. Don't lie about it, you know. And then make sure that each alderman person represent his community to do the right thing. Whether you're white, black, Latino, or other. You got billions and billions of dollars that's going to people outside of Chicago, not inside of Chicago. People in position out here, you got black aldermen, white aldermen should work together, all right? And besides that, you got to have black people stop thinking they're white people, okay? And you must take the hope of jokers.
I didn't catch myself on it.
And whether you're white or black, it doesn't matter as long as you do the right thing. I say forget about all the BS. The jokers have done it wrong in City Hall. They need to resign and shut up and get out of City Hall. And let people come in, all right?
Take this one and take a picture.
Erie Chico.
Tough act to follow.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you to the organizers here for a wonderful event. Thank you, Laura Washington, for your time to moderate. And it's good to be back at UIC, the place I graduated from. I agree the time for talking is over. The flowery rhetoric doesn't do us any good. Communities in this room have already developed plans of holding Austin forward together. Holding Auburn Gresham tomorrow. North Lawndale. We don't need to be sitting around talking about this for the next 6 months. We can use the next 30 days to start building these plans. These are well thought out plans that list. I want to give Megan Hart and her team a shout out. They've done a great job in working with communities to make these plans that touch on education, affordable housing, and economic development by bringing back our commercial strips. If you want the fastest way to make our neighborhoods safe, let's put stores back in the stores. They're dark right now. There's nobody there. If the city works harder to bring in entrepreneurial local business to 79th Street, where I was 3 weeks ago, we'll bring crime down. There'll be people shopping, there'll be jobs, and there'll be activity. This is so fundamentally important, but the time for talking is over. The time right now is to act, and you've already done the hard work.
Visual aids are always helpful. John Kozlar.
Hi everybody, my name is John Kozlar. I was always told to stand up for what's right. And although there was some excitement here a little bit earlier, I just want to explain, a month and a half ago we were invited to this forum, and we were told the day of that they wanted the top 10 candidates to be here. But my thing is, don't let the media tell you who the top 10 candidates are, let the voters decide. We have an issue in Chicago here where we keep electing the same people over and over, and for some reason during election time they try to fool us that they care. But instead of investing in downtown Chicago, let's start investing on the south side where I grew up. Let's start investing on the west side. Let's start investing on the southeast side of Chicago. Instead of giving your friends $100,000 a year jobs like Toni Preckwinkle, let's start investing in our community members. Let's start giving those jobs to the citizens of Chicago because they should be treated fairly. Politicians are the ones that Chicago have benefited for so long.